Comic books being purchased? Check. Reading some of these comic books? Check. Are they any good? Let's find out. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, I'm your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy. And today, guys, I'm bringing you another episode of After the Poll. This is the video series where I pick some of my most highly anticipated books that I'm looking forward to reading. I read some of them and I share with you if they're worth the hype. So, guys, before we get started here, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel, give this video a like, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any content from me. And I'm getting super close to hitting 10K, so if you guys want to enter in my Road to 10K XMen giveaway and win some graded X-Men comic books, guys, go ahead and leave a comment at one point during this video. So let's get started, guys. What's the first book that we're going to talk about today? Well, it's none other than Reptil. Reptil was a most anticipated comic on my list, but under the hot seat where I wasn't sure if I was going to actually pick it up. But I said, you know what? Let's check it out. Let's see what this book has to offer. If anything, this book might be geared to a little bit of a younger audience, people trying to get into comic books, and that doesn't, have that much violence in it, okay? So let's check out the artwork in this first issue. Looks pretty good. The one thing that was very strong that I pointed out in my comic book haul was the paneling layout. It looked really nice. Characters' facial expressions were fine. Nothing that blows you out of the water, but it's absolutely fine. It's got good coloring and whatnot. So the artwork did it for me. So what was this story about? Well, before we get into it, let me just tell you guys that there will be spoilers in these reviews. So if you have not read your comic books yet, read these particular issues and then you can come back and watch this video and give your thoughts. So this book takes place in Los Angeles, okay? And we get introduced to our young character by the name of Roberto Lopez. Now, I'm familiar with Reptil due to Avengers Academy, which ended quite a while ago. And so really, as a reader standpoint, you need to get reintroduced to the character, where he came from. And the book does a great job at that, especially in the beginning of the book, like how he acquired his powers, what happened to his parents, which they died. And his parents were actually paleontologists, and so it did a great job at doing that. And not only did it do that, but it also introduced the cultural aspect of Roberto and his family and whatnot, which I think was actually cool. But the problem that I had with it is that a lot of our characters would be speaking in the English language, right? And then what happens is all of a sudden they start talking in Spanish. And so what happens, it's like you kind of lose the conversation there because it's never actually translated. And I know comics are doing more of this these days, where they're putting different languages in and they never translate it, where in the past it was like they would speak in their different language, but it would say translated from, in French or whatever the case may be. But here it's just like, hey, we're just going to speak Spanish, and if you don't understand it, well, too bad. Maybe you should know, So that was the problem that I had with this book. And there was a lot of, again, characters thrown at you, which could be a little bit overwhelming, and you get lost at who they actually are. They go out into this downtown fashion district because one of his cousins is into fashion and whatnot. And then what happens is you wind up getting introduced to this villain who wants Roberto's amulet that gives him his powers to change into a dinosaur, right? The character seemed a little bit generic for me. I didn't like his character design so much. And you can see he was going after Reptil. And he's like, give me the amulet. And his dialogue was very basic. It was just like constantly, give me the amulet. Give me the amulet now. Hand over the amulet. And it's like, come on, dude. We get it. We know you want the amulet, right? So towards the end of the issue, and I thought this was the biggest surprise, and then the only surprise was that we wound up getting Herberto's cousin, who actually has superpowers, and I think her name is Ava. I think that's what her name was, and she has superpowers, so this could be the introduction of a new character going forward. So by the time we get to the very end of it, we wind up seeing that the villain here knows where Reptil's parents are and says that they could still be alive, but you need to hand over the amulet. So once again, he wanted that amulet pretty bad. What did I think about this book? Very point A to point B type of issue. It was okay. Will I continue it reading forward? I think it's going to depend on the comic book week on how many books I actually read. I think this is only 5 issues. I kind of want to read it more to find out more about the new character that seems to be being introduced here. This first appearance could be a spec. I don't know. Story was okay. It wasn't as bad or as atrocious as I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I think it's geared to a younger audience. All right, so let's move forward now and let's talk about Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader. This is issue 12. This is a prelude to the War of the Bounty Hunters. And if there's a prelude issue that is going to be pretty kick-ass, I thought it was going to be Darth Vader, because he's heavily tied into Han Solo, the capturing of Han Solo, him freezing him in carbonite, Han Solo definitely, shooting at Darth Vader and getting him off course to destroy Luke Skywalker before they destroyed the original Death Star. So there's a lot of connections between Han Solo and Darth Vader. So we open up the book, we get some pretty cool interior art. This continues right after the last story arc, and Darth Vader has seen what Emperor Palpatine is trying to do, and he has kneeled towards Palpatine once again for now. Obviously, we always know the end result when it comes to Return of the Jedi, what Darth Vader does to the Emperor, but at this point in time, between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, this is the story that we're getting, and this is all supposedly in canon. Now, this book really is a quick read. There's not a lot of dialogue. Again, you see a lot of flashbacks of what takes place during Darth Vader's interactions with Han Solo, and that's really what this issue was about, is a flashback issue, and him trying to capture Han Solo all this time. Okay, and so you also experiencing these flashbacks while Darth Vader is actually getting all these repairs after the battles that he's done. Okay, you got to see one point where Darth Vader was chasing Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon, and you get thrown into this Corellian engineering station where you get to see all these other Millennium Falcons, and I thought that was pretty badass. And Han Solo went there to kind of get away from Darth Vader when he was chasing him at one point, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. So again, you saw a lot of flashbacks when he's getting frozen in the carbonite, when Boba Fett actually goes to pick him up, and then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this very issue, Darth Vader actually doesn't want Han Solo to go to Jabba the Hutt. At the end of the day, he's going after Boba Fett to actually get the Han Solo carbonite as well. He wants it for himself. So that's how you get to the end point of the issue there. So pretty cool issue. Again, it's a quick read, and this is all leading up to the War of the Bounty Hunters. I want to know in the comments below, what you guys think if you read this, and are you excited for that huge crossover event? I think it's going to be awesome. All right. Let's talk about another book that was really pretty badass this week, and it exceeded my expectations, but I was looking forward to it, and that was X-Men. This is issue 20. This one is the Nimrod story. You wind up seeing Dr. Gregor trying to resurrect her husband that was killed in the early issues of X-Men, and you wind up seeing Nimrod coming back online. The really cool thing I liked about this was the artwork. This was some really nice artwork. I love the facial expressions in this book. Mystique looks nice. Forge looks nice. Just everything looks cool. Later on in the issue, you wind up seeing Nimrod being born here, which is kind of cool as well. So great artwork. And we wound up getting to see Mystique make a deal with Magneto and Professor Xavier, and they're saying that you have to stop Nimrod from coming online, and if you do that, we can resurrect your wife Destiny, which we've been waiting for this storyline for a very long time. So we wind up seeing Forge construct a device that creates a black hole that can kind of suck in the station and Nimrod and everything else. So you wind up getting to see some great character interactions between Mystique and Forge. I thought that was really cool. And you don't get to see too much character development, I feel like, in the most recent issues of X-Men. So it's great to see that character development and interaction. And then we wind up getting to see Mystique. She winds up going through the quorum portal to the actual station to construct her plan. And then you wind up seeing Dr. Gregor resurrect her husband, but through the body of Nimrod. And Nimrod is born here, but still has a conscience of a human. So again, the mission here is to take out Nimrod before Nimrod is born. But Nimrod, as you know, is just a robot without a conscience, does not care about a single thing in the world. And so what happens is that even Dr. Gregor is resurrecting her husband. He, like I said, Nimrod has this conscience. She gets reunited with the husband, gets to analyze all his powers and things that he can do. And it was a very emotional moment between the husband and the wife there, which was cool. And we get to see, obviously, Mystique, wants to be with her significant other. So she's doing the mission that she has to do by taking out Nimrod. She launches out that device that creates this black hole, and then what happens is Nimrod winds up being able to self-duplicate himself, but his real conscious, the body that's taking the black hole device with him, is going out into space and winds up getting sucked up and destroyed. And he was able to save the space station, but again, the only thing that exists from Nimrod is the Nimrod duplicate that has no conscience. So Dr. Gregor winds up losing her husband once again. So Nimrod is there, but again, no conscience. And what happens is we see the robot, the Sentinel, takes Mystique by the neck, throws her through the portal, and says, "I will come after you." Obviously in the eventually, and Mystique winds up dying because she was severely injured. She obviously gets resurrected, which again, dying doesn't mean anything in X-Men, but she gets resurrected, and she said she wasn't going to fail this mission, and she completely failed this mission in every way, shape, or form. So it was an awesome issue. I loved it. Both characters wound up acting based off of their loved ones. Again, Mystique trying to do this mission, destroy Nimrod to get her loved one back, right? And then we get to see Dr. Gregor trying to resurrect her husband. And I thought that was a very emotional issue, and that's what I liked about it. But at the end of the day, Nimrod still exists. Mystique failed. She doesn't get what she wants, and no one got what they wanted. And now there's just going to be this act of revenge, which I thought was actually really interesting way to end that issue. But again, my whole thing when it comes to X-Men is these 5 that can resurrect anything, they need to go away, because just dying doesn't mean anything. It just seems like nothing's at stake. If you die, who cares? I don't care. For years and years, we've seen X-Men comic books out there where people didn't die, right? And it's just like now people die left and right, and it just doesn't mean anything. There's no significance in it. So otherwise, besides that, it was a really good book, and definitely one of the best X-Men titles. All right, next, let's move on to another highly anticipated book, because everyone liked the original or the first issue, and that one was Robin. This one is Robin issue 2. Really fun read here. This book is quickly becoming one of my favorite comics. And in the last issue, we got to see the Lazarus Island, right? Damian go to it, Mortal Kombat style, fighting other characters. He gets his heart ripped off by Flatline, and people are like, okay, well, how's he going to come back alive? Well, anything that has the name of Lazarus in it, obviously you're going to know that characters are going to be coming back to life, right? So right away we get to see that introduced, you know, in the beginning of the issue. We get to see that he heals, okay? But let's check out the overall artwork. Great facial expressions, great colors. All the characters jump out on you. Rose is in this issue as well. Great action sequences. Everything about this book, when you're reading it, it just draws you right to all these characters. Check out Hawk in there as well. So really awesome looking book. And like I said, right from the start, you get all the rules of what this tournament has, right? So it's not, hey, you die once, you're done, you get resurrected. You have actually 3 lives. And if you die on your 3rd life, you wind up dying completely. So if you want to leave after your 1st death, you can. If you want to leave after your 2nd death, you can. But just remember, 3rd death, you're going to die. So this is just like a video game. This is just like Mortal Kombat or some kind of video game. And we get to see that Rose is really trying to educate Damian on how to act, right? Instead of being such a hard ass and making things hard on yourself and doing things your own way, why don't you learn to have fun? Don't think that you're the best person, you know, here and that you're going to be able to beat anybody. Just be part of the group and things will come more natural to you. And that's what she was trying to do. And Damian's so funny in this issue. He's like, you know, watching Flatline and he's like, oh, I got the eyes on you. I'm watching you. I'm going to get my revenge on you. You know, again, he's always so serious, trying to find out what's going on, right? And there was a kind of a cool moment in here where Rose actually goes in his duffel bag and it shows that he likes to draw manga. And I thought that was awesome too. But really great character interactions in here. And I love the way this book ended. And we do get to see that there's this huge Lazarus pit in this island. So obviously there's other things going on in here. But I can't wait to see where this story goes, like say issue 10. Right? Like, where are we going to be at? What's going to be Damian's situation? You know, is Batman going to get involved somehow? I don't know. But definitely recommend this book. Pick this one up, guys. This is a must read. One of the better DC books out there right now. So go ahead and check that one out as I'm fighting my bags and boards to put these comic books away. All right. So let's move on to the next book. And we're going to talk about Something is Killing the Children. This is issue 16. So this book had so much hype behind it, right? The origin story of Erica Slaughter. Now, I thought the origin story was only going to take place in this issue. That's not the case. It's a whole story arc. So if you're banking on this particular issue to be worth a lot of money in the future, I don't know if this is going to be it, because it takes place through a bunch of issues. So maybe it might be 16, 17, 18, or 19. I don't know. Or it could not be any at all, because, you know, that first issue is the one that's going for all the money right now. But nevertheless, if you're in it for the story, this is a pretty damn good story. James Tynion has done a great job. You know, you're introduced to the first page of this book, and you see this little girl sitting there looking at her best friend that was just murdered from one of these creatures. I mean, that's pretty intense right there. So remember, this book is not for the younger audience, right? So here's some more of the interior artwork. And what I love about this book is always the characters' eyes. I think this is brilliant, how all these characters have these bright eyes. So obviously it draws you into the characters' facial expressions just by their eyes alone. Really awesome. So what was this story really about? So here we get to see Erica deal with one of these monsters for the first time, and how many kids don't know how to fight these monsters, for some reason Erica does. Okay, and then we wound up seeing the monster hunter Jessica try to go ahead and call the House of Slaughter and sit there, or the Halls of Slaughter and St. George or whatever, and say, hey, I got this stray, I'm going to bring her in. And they're kind of arguing back and forth, but they agree to it. And so we wind up seeing the Jessica, which is the motherly figure in this book, saying, okay, well, the cops are going to come, when they want to, because my people have arranged it this way. Why don't you go ahead, take a shower, clean up, and you're going to be part of this group now, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're just going to go to child services. We get the octopus creature. We get a little bit of an origin story with that, because the creature winds up going into the stuffed animal. It's mad about it, so they put it in a Tupperware, which I thought was a hysterical moment. So again, you get more of these little revelations of why these things exist. And then you get to see a little bit of the backstory of the battle that was at hand right before the opening page, how Erica was trying to save her friend, how the monster destroyed her friend. And then you get to see the car ride there to the house, about how the rules are going to be, how there's going to be kids that bully her. And Jessica really recognizes Erica on how perceptive she is, on how smart she is, and how she's going to fit in and how she's going to be successful. So really awesome little car ride there. Then you get introduced to the house, and then you get introduced to the whole bandana. When you're initiated into the group, you get a bandana with the teeth. Otherwise, when you're not initiated yet, you just wear a plain black bandana. And then you get to see a young Erica Slaughter there walking with Jessica and Cecilia through the hallways for the first time. And that is the beginning of your story there. So that was really good. I loved young Erica Slaughter. I loved how everything was so new and so fresh to her, because in issue 1 or 2, she's kind of just like chill, laid back. She's done this 100 times. She's like almost sick of doing it. And then here it's all fresh and new. And I love seeing the motherly figure here. The artwork keeps delivering top notch. Definitely a book that I would recommend. And this is actually a really good jumping on point for new readers. If you never read Something is Killing the Children, go out there, read a couple of the trades, and then you'll be caught up easily. So definitely buy this book. All right, and then the last book we're going to be talking about today is The Last Ronin. This is issue 3, I think. Okay, so just because the way this one is made, I'm not going to open it up and show the artwork, because I don't want to break that spine. But The Last Ronin was actually a solid issue. However, it wasn't as action-packed or intense as the first 2 issues, right? First issue, you got to see like that video game style where you get to see Mikey go up to the tower and try to defeat the Shredder. Really awesome, right? Second issue, you got to see the death of Raphael, and I thought that was intense. His death really meant something, and it just kind of hits you, right? And then this issue, you wind up seeing something that I felt like it was a little bit of a cop-out, in my opinion, right? You wind up seeing this peace between the two groups, between each other, and obviously thanks to Dr. Stockman, I think his name was, right? He winds up having all these mousers come out, and they're going after the turtles, and there's this crazy brawl, and there's this big fight, and all of a sudden we wind up seeing that he wants Fugitoid, and since no one's able to hand him over to Fugitoid, he just blows everything up. And so what happens is you wind up seeing Leonardo and Casey Jones. They wind up getting blown up, and that was the end of them. And it just didn't feel as impactful as, say, the other death was, right? And I thought it would be a more, I guess, honorable death where they just kind of blew up. And you don't know where Donatello is at this exact moment in time, right? So you got to see a little bit more planning and situations that are going to come. So this was kind of a real heavy flashback issue between, again, what happened with Leonardo and Casey, obviously with Michelangelo, and then you wind up seeing things of what to come. And so it was kind of a setup as well for what's coming in the next issue, issue 4. So it was an okay issue. It wasn't as good as 1 or 2, like I said, but I still highly recommend it. It's still a good read. There's always going to be, high points and slow points when it comes to a miniseries, right? So when you get this in a trade or a collected edition or whatnot, this is just going to be the slow part of that book. But nevertheless, it's still a really good story, and I still highly recommend this book. So there you guys have it. There are the books that we discussed today. And after the poll, I want to know your thoughts on some of these books. And maybe there are books out there so far that you read that you want to recommend to me. And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. I'll leave you more content right here to check out. And I'll see you guys on that next video. And enjoy those books.